Last Friday, Shane Dawson posted a 1-hour video about the YouTuber Eugenia and what she has been going through. Eugenia is currently recovering from an eating disorder, and Shane's documentary highlighted who she is and how she thinks.
I guess eventually it just got to the point where I really realized it would be a good idea to get some help for that.
There was a part in the video in which Eugenia talks about some people in her life not showing concern, then later bullying her into making decisions for her.
Some people that kind of really weren't really. There was almost some people that never really said anything to me before, but then later on were kind of bullying me into trying to make decisions for me, and they were just not wanting to listen to me at all, not really wanting to hear how I'm feeling. Before they never really seemed to care much about anything, so...
This brought upon the friend she was referring to post a 24-minute video regarding the intervention they had with Eugenia on Jaclyn Glenn's channel.
One of the things that bothers me the most is that she said they seemed like they didn't care until they were bullies.
And later posting a condensed 3-minute version upon Keemstar's advice.
I just got off the phone with Keemstar and his advice was make a short video, so we're gonna make a short video.
Through the intervention, Jaclyn, David, Frank, and Ava tricked Eugenia into thinking she would be going to an escape room with them, but upon arriving at Jaclyn's apartment, they told her that wasn't what was happening and they were having an intervention. In case you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link to Jaclyn's full video in the description down below. Now, when I first watched it, it raised a lot of questions in my mind because I actually spoke to Eugenia back in February, shortly after all this occurred, and her version of events didn't fully align with Jaclyn's, so it made me kind of want to speak up and say something, but not before reaching out to Jaclyn and seeing if I could ask her some questions for further insight. She agreed, and that's what we're going to be going over today, as well as my opinion afterwards. ¿Qué tal amigos? It's Edwin. Now originally I was going to be having a phone call with Jaclyn, but she wasn't feeling very well, so we ended up having our little interview / conversation through messaging. It's a lot to go through and it is a heavy conversation, so I just kind of want to give a warning for those who might need it. I'm going to be having Kate read Jaclyn's parts. Bless her, because it's a lot to go through and your boy isn't as good of a reader, you know? I wanted to be completely transparent with Jaclyn, so before I initiated the conversation, I let her know that I had spoken with Eugenia a little while back and she had given me her version of events. And of course, I did check with Eugenia before making this video. Everything Gucci. Alright, now let's go through the conversation with Jaclyn. You said you didn't like the narrative of Shane's video. What about it didn't you like?
Honestly, I like Shane. I think he's a good person and has her best interests at heart. I'd hate to think he knew the real story and proceeded to tell this version instead. The real danger is her mom, and Shane was most likely used to shine a positive light on her in this situation. It's important that Eugenia gets away from her mom and is independent from the control. Her mom never did a thing to get her help and tried to have me arrested when I did the only thing I could to potentially save her life. The story Shane tells makes everyone concerned for her think she's in a better place, and I do not believe this to be true at all. I don't think she even realizes how dangerous it is. Her mom controls her every move. She can't leave the house, and if she does, it's with her mom or her driver, who is also apparently willing to bang on my door and yell at me in the most aggressive way I've ever seen. Eugenia was crying the whole time, saying how her mom has a weak heart and if we do anything to stress her out, she might die. She's terrified that anything she does against what she's told to do could kill her mom. That's some crazy level of manipulation. I think Eugenia would tell whatever version of this story to protect her mom that she could, and Shane was used to do it.
Aside from Eugenia saying those things, what else drew you to the conclusion that her mom is a danger to her? Have you spoken with her mom, other than when she was angry with you over the phone?
Her mom has never done a thing to help her. Not one doctor visit. She controls her every move to the point of hiring one driver that waits around to pick her up again. Eugenia said her mom and brother thought she was fine and that we didn't need to worry. How could a parent think she's fine? Have you seen the videos of her mom out shopping with her, picking out clothes that show off her body and saying how cute it is? If friends go out of their way to get her help, why would you have them arrested? She called me a on the phone and was telling Eugenia to run away from the mental health professionals. She was begging her to find any way to leave. In Shane's video, the lawyer that was there, who is also my lawyer, seems to be overseeing the whole thing. He actually introduced me to Katie Morton over a year ago so she could help me figure out what to do. She literally told me step by step how to do this intervention and knows the details of Eugenia's home life. This was not a decision I made lightly, and she helped me a lot. I don't know how she could not bring it up and make sure she gets out of that house.
I guess I was trying to see exactly how we objectively know that her mom is a danger. When I spoke to Eugenia, she portrayed her in a different light. Perhaps I could get her perspective because these conclusions about her mom seem very subjective. Perhaps it wasn't that she thought Eugenia was fine, but that she didn't know how to help. When I heard David say that Eugenia's mom yelling at you was a red flag of someone killing their daughter, I feel like it sort of dismissed the fact that Eugenia was misled and it had never happened before, so it took her mom into a panic. At least that's how I viewed it.
Oh yes, I know Eugenia will defend her mom at all costs. She said the same thing to us and to the mental health professionals. Their decision was to contact Adult Protective Services. I think it's pretty clear to anyone who knows her or her mom. Eugenia has been completely brainwashed and can't see the situation for what it is. No sane mother would let their daughter get that close to death with not one visit to a doctor. She needs to get away from her mother to truly be in a better place. Also, I don't buy that her mom simply didn't know how to help. Take your kid to a doctor. There's no excuse.
Did Eugenia tell you she hadn't visited a doctor in 5 years? That was quite specific. When I had spoken to her over the phone, she told me that she had plans to visit a clinic before your intervention occurred.
Yes, she did say that. She also told us the same story about her plan to see a doctor months from then. She also told that to the PET representatives and they had her committed because they didn't buy it. She needed help and she needed it now. I might go in a few months when I'm back home. Didn't cut it for them.
I guess it comes down to a matter of belief. I'm curious to get in touch with her mom myself since I've only interacted with her once. The intervention seemed very forceful when I heard Eugenia's perspective and not much better through your video. There seems to be a lot of assumptions that her mom has a choice over Eugenia as well as no concern, which at the end of the day, Eugenia is an adult.
If you have a parent that is controlling over every aspect of your life that says you look fine when you're deteriorating in front of them, regardless of age, that will mess you up. Not trying to help your daughter and further saying she's fine with something this serious for this long is unacceptable. I don't think that's subjective at all. Nothing will ever make me feel at peace with a parent who lets their child die and does nothing.
I was referring to the belief that her mom has bad intentions for Eugenia. You feel it shouldn't have gone as far or bad as it did in the first place, which, although true, does not imply inherent neglect or that her mom did not try to intervene in the first place. Meaning her mom is not in active danger and rather did not go about handling the situation in the best way, but at least we're on the right path now.
I disagree. I fully believe she is in active danger. She had so much anger and aggression towards me for getting her help. Eugenia failed a psychological evaluation and her mom instructed her to run. She persistently denied that Eugenia even had a problem. APS was called by the team because they were so concerned. I have no doubt that she would have been ripped away from that home if she were a minor.
It should also be noted that Eugenia has a naturally skinny body frame as you and I do, and this was seen in the photos she's shown as a child, as well as her uploaded YouTube videos where she wasn't abnormally skinny yet, in which she was still an adult. So at the point where Eugenia was still an adult, but her condition began or became worse, it is possible her mom was not equipped with how to address it while Eugenia was still dependent on her. I suppose that is the devil's advocate. My main point is that many of your responses seem to come from assumptions and observations coming from a good place, but perhaps it could have all been handled better. At least when I spoke to Eugenia, she made it seem like you two weren't all that close, nor had you brought up a small intervention of this kind, like a conversation. I know in your video you said you tried to speak about it at a party, but it didn't work out. The intervention just seemed a bit rushed to me. I think it could have been more beneficial to gain a more direct perspective from her mother, which I'm certainly curious about, and I was also very shocked to hear the way it was handled with a taser being brought into the intervention.
Edwin, I'm sure you have good intentions here, but this seems ridiculous. Yes, I'm naturally thin, but she's on another level, and you can be damn sure my parents wouldn't let me get that bad. Regardless of a person's age when they're killing themselves, you say something. A parent that lives with their kid doesn't stop being a parent when they turn 18. Talking with her mother could have prevented me from ever seeing her again. Her mom controlled everything, and that would have ruined my only chance to make sure she got help. We took action quickly because we were terrified she'd be dead soon if not. I own a taser, and we had the intervention at my apartment. The only reason we had to get it is because her driver chased me into my apartment screaming and banging on my door. I called the police but wanted to have something near me in case he became violent. This was one of the most terrifying and emotionally heartbreaking days of my life. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I'm struggling a lot with this right now and would respectfully like to end the conversation here. Thanks for the questions. I'm going to try to get some air and calm down for a bit.
Alright, thanks for answering my questions. I figured it'd be best to pass it along this way, and most fair. I know it wasn't easy, as it isn't easy to anyone, and I think this gives you an opportunity to share more of your perspective through me, who even though I don't agree, I hope you can see I was respectful as well. Cheers. Phew, that was a lot. Now, I'm going to be going over some of the points that I disagree with, accompanied by the context of my own personal beliefs, as well as some of the things that Eugenia told me back in February. So the first point that was made in my conversation with her, as well as both of her videos.
I would love for everything in that video to have been the whole truth, so that it could truly be celebrated, but it was, I think, a manipulation
Jaclyn strongly believes that Shane was used to spread a false narrative, in a description of one of the videos calling it untrue and toxic with potential to perpetuate the problem. To say that Shane Dawson was used implies that Shane didn't have complete creative control over his video, or that maybe the idea wasn't his to begin with, which I personally find hard to believe on both fronts.
So a picture leaked a few weeks ago, and I even sent her a text, and I was just like, hey, like, oh my god, like, I cried looking at the picture, like, you look so healthy, you look so good, I'm so proud of you.
I'm not even sure if there was a story in Shane's video that was untruthful, you know? It didn't seem like there was any deception whatsoever. It seemed like it was just presenting Eugenia as she is. I'm not sure if Jaclyn or her friends expected, like, something more personal or private, but I don't know. Eugenia's a very private person to begin with, you know?
I just feel like, yeah, Eugenia's a great person. I love her, I care about her. But the people surrounding her in her life, I feel like, are dangerous. And I think that they were aware of Shane's potential to cover their tracks.
When I watched it, I got the vibe that Shane's video was meant to sort of smooth the transition of Eugenia's return, you know, show the world who she is, what she's dealt with, and how she thinks. That's exactly what I perceived. And I think another purpose of the video was to show that Eugenia is doing better now.
My hope and her hope is that this could help a lot of people. So that's why we're doing this, and I want to make sure I can somehow help her come back and feel comfortable and hopefully have a chance to start over.
Unless Jaclyn is referring to the part of the video where Eugenia said that she felt bullied. I mean, I don't know if that could even be called deception, because that is Eugenia's perception of the story, you know? People have different sides. People perceive things differently. And that was also just a few seconds of the entire 1 hour long video. And I don't think that anybody would have ever pinpointed that it was Jaclyn and her friends who were the people that Eugenia was referring to. It seemed like a very passing comment. It could have been literally anybody. When Eugenia told me about the confrontation, she told me she felt cornered, very afraid, and severely anxious. She told me that David, Jaclyn's boyfriend, was holding a taser, and she knew him the least out of the 4 people that were there. But that's another thing that either didn't quite line up with Jaclyn's story, or just kind of seems a bit fuzzy, because Eugenia told me that David had the taser himself. I don't know what point that Jaclyn was chased. Eugenia didn't say anything about that. Definitely didn't say that anybody banged on any door, but I don't know. I'm not speaking for her. He said, she said at this point. Eugenia did, however, tell me that the driver was a family friend that they met through Uber, that they decided to keep using as basically like a driver, because they felt like it's a safer option than just a different kind of driver every single time.
I had to fight them so hard to get her into care, and I'm now viewed as like a bully.
And I mean, I didn't get around asking Jaclyn in our little conversation, but I really wanted to ask what she thought was the point of committing her involuntarily into one of those mental institutions, because those do not cater to people with eating disorders, you know? I mean, in her video, she said that they would have to make an appointment for one that would actually have space for her, that wouldn't be one of those emergency institutions. Jaclyn felt she couldn't wait any longer, but this just leads me to believe, like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's Jaclyn's place, especially not without all the talking. And I don't mean to shame Jaclyn, by the way. I want to reiterate that I don't want to start any beef, you know. I don't want any sort of harm to go in Jaclyn's way either. I don't want to encourage any harassment towards her. I think that she did her best in what she thought, you know. I don't want to push an I'm right narrative or whatever. I think that obviously Jaclyn is dealing with a lot right now herself, and I don't know. I think she'll come to terms with whatever. Hey, maybe she still believes that I'm wrong, and maybe I am wrong. I don't know. I hope not, for the sake of Eugenia. Eugenia's not obligated to share every private thing about herself online, you know? And I'm not sure if that's what Jaclyn was expecting, but I am pretty sure that her experience with Jaclyn definitely hindered her ability to open up, you know? One of the first things that she said to me when we were on the phone, right after everything happened, she was like, can I trust you though? Are you sure? You're not gonna like talk to Jaclyn, are you? She was very, very nervous, and she admitted herself that she was like more insecure, more paranoid, and more just like wary of who to trust. Eugenia told me about how horrifying and traumatic her experience was at the mental hospital, and she really emphasized how she didn't feel like she belonged at all because they were not catering to her at all. She didn't feel like it was a place for people with eating disorders whatsoever. She told me some of the experiences with the inpatients as well, and how horrifying it was for her. You know, she described it in detail, and I completely believe it, you know. I have had the misfortune of having to involuntarily commit a family member, but this is a completely different situation because he was having a very manic episode, and it was not easy. It was some of the hardest things in my life, you know, with my mom. She was suffering so much, and she was hesitating. She didn't want to do this. But that's the difference. Like, this is family. The fact that neither Jaclyn nor Eugenia call each other a best friend, that's where I feel like it's dangerous to just kind of step in and consider yourself the one responsible for putting someone in a mental institution just like that, you know, because those aren't the ones that cater to people with eating disorders, and that's just a fact. And it's not to say that Jaclyn didn't have Eugenia's best interest in mind. I just don't think that she fully knew what she was doing at the time, and that's just my opinion. I definitely think her stress and anxiety that she displays on her video is very real, because I can relate to it, having had to do that to someone. It's not a pleasant thing, you know. I just really feel like there should be more personal conversations with a person, you know, and not like, I'm gonna commit you, but like, just try to get where their head's at and try to present how you feel about what you're seeing. And then if you really feel like everything's unrealistic, you know, you should have several examples of conversations, not just like, well, I try to bring it up delicately, but I was scared that if I brought it up assertively, then her mother would not let her hang out with me. I just don't think that that's the best way to go, and that's just my opinion. Okay, everyone's free to say their own. I'm nervous about this because I don't know. It's very sensitive.
So back in January, she posted a video, and people were really scared for her, and then she kind of disappeared. So I reached out to her, and she was like, I've been dealing with stuff, but I am gonna get help. And that was like, she's never ever said that she needed help. Like,
I remember myself stressing because I was like, wait a second, who is Eugenia's close friends? Like, I've hung out with her several times, and I've talked to her plenty, and I still couldn't think of who is her closest friends, you know? I reached out to Johnny Gilbert, and I asked him if he knew, because I knew that he had hung out with her probably a few times more than me, and he also did not know. So when I eventually called her, that was one of the first things that I asked her. I said, who are your close friends? And she told me that she didn't have any. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is very telling, you know? This is a sad thing, that people sometimes may not have reality checks, and it's a strong point to consider.
The police were on their way because she was on the phone with her mom, who was screaming at me, by the way. She verbatim called me a for doing what I was doing.
How could a friend do this, I believe, to her friends?
Jaclyn heavily targets Eugenia's mom throughout the interview as well as the videos, and honestly, one of the bigger judgments that she placed on her mom was when Eugenia's mom yelled at her. But let's remember the position that Eugenia's mom was put in, right? Jaclyn presents it as Eugenia's mom yelling at someone trying to help her daughter. But of course, the reality is that Eugenia was probably texting her scared for her life. And when you find out that someone lied to your kid and then eventually told them they're gonna do something, and then they're locked in with a taser, right? You might be a little mad too. So I don't know if that's intentionally being dismissed or what, but I kind of understand why Eugenia's mom is mad. I don't think that's correlated with not wanting to help Eugenia, because obviously Eugenia did start to get help. I'm simply not convinced that Eugenia's mom is a villain that doesn't want Eugenia to get better. They strongly paint Eugenia's mom as a villainous manipulator, but what if she isn't? Wouldn't that be ironic?
These were not people looking out for Eugenia's best interest. These were people looking for some form of gain and manipulation in a way that this video, the Shane video that came out today, completely glosses over the real problems and makes us completely worried that she's not okay.
And look, it's not that I'm not open to the idea that maybe Eugenia is being brainwashed, but it just seems a little bit off when you paint her mother as this master manipulator because she hasn't forced her 24-year-old adult daughter to seek help. And what do? You manipulate and trick Eugenia without previously really sitting her down formally and really addressing things one-on-one because you fear that her mom might stop you from seeing each other again.
We were very delicately trying to bring things up because we were fearful that her mother would never let her hang out with us.
And then you force her into a mental institution thinking that would help her? And I mean, I was really wondering what the objective of the video was, but I guess in the shorter one, you did say that it was to point out that Eugenia is still in danger because she's still with her mom, and as you told me, she will be in danger until she leaves that household.
Eugenia's mom is a dangerous person. She fought us on trying to get her help every single step of the way.
I don't know why I wasn't presented with more substantial evidence or at least more important examples when we talked one-on-one. That's all. And again, I want to emphasize that these are my thoughts and my feelings, and I if anything, I want to encourage some peaceful discussion, you know? In no way do I wish any ill on Jaclyn, you know? I think that I would like to think that if she wants to discuss more one-on-one with me, I'm totally free whenever. It's just, I couldn't get behind Jaclyn speaking with such authority and making such strong claims against Eugenia's mom without any substantial evidence. Maybe it's a bit sappy and too optimistic for today's climate, but I think it's important to look at all angles, you know? Maybe Eugenia's mom is not as bad as people make her out to be. And Jaclyn also draws this picture that Eugenia can't be seen outside without the driver or her mom. But I don't know, at least from personal experience, when I hung out with Eugenia back at VidCon, I think 2018 or 2017, we went to a party and it was like a late party and there was no mom or no driver around at all.
Eugenia is an adult. She's, I believe, 24, 25 years old. She's never allowed to go anywhere. It's all completely manipulated by the mother. There is a driver, Edgar. Every hangout with friends is an orchestrated pickup and drop off by Edgar, who waits outside.
My friend Damon also told me about several times that he hung out with Eugenia and there was also no mom or driver, you know? Plenty of times I've seen Eugenia and she wasn't with her mom, you know? And also the demeanor didn't seem like she was on a leash or anything like that. She didn't seem limited. So I just feel like that part of the story, from my perspective, I can say that it feels a bit exaggerated. I don't think that Eugenia is on a tight leash as she's made out to be in Jaclyn's storytelling.
Yeah, sometimes people don't just decide to get help after that much time doing what you're doing, being around people telling you that you're fine.
She did not decide that.
She didn't decide.
She fought.
As friends, we had to do something so uncomfortable and traumatic and force her to do this. And I don't regret it, and I'm not sorry. I don't care if I'm viewed as a bully.
I believe, because I've known about this since it happened, I believe that Jaclyn Gleen is not only a great friend, but she's a hero. Great job, Jaclyn. Great job.
Another thing about Jaclyn's videos is that my first impression when I first saw it, it felt like she was making it about herself. Like she was like, where's my credit? Like I'm the reason she got help. And I was very thrown off because, well, for one, even if she was the reason, why are you making this video? It didn't feel very altruistic. It didn't really, it kind of made it seem like she's putting, I mean, she literally did use Shane Dawson's title and then add the real story, which I really didn't understand, you know? I mean, if we're gonna pick up assumptions like, have you seen the vlog where her mom does this? Well, you know, to make her mom look bad, I could also draw a bad narrative on you, Jaclyn, and say, well, you happen to do this when your channel on your social blade looks like it was going down, and look, now it's spiking up because you dropped this big video with Shane Dawson's exact title. You know, but I mean, not that I think that's what it is, because obviously it is a very raw and real video, but I'm just saying that it's very dangerous to kind of go in that territory of assumptions when you want to make someone look bad. You gotta always try to base things off of objective experiences or just facts, really, and not just like, well, she yelled at me over the phone. Well, yeah, you held her daughter kind of hostage.
I hope she's really in a better place, but I know that there are a lot of things that it might point to not.
And again, Eugenia did assure me that she did have plans to go to Connecticut to the rehab center there. She told me that in no way was her being committed to a mental hospital was any sort of catalyst whatsoever. Just a traumatic experience, if anything. Anyways, I really felt it was important to get this perspective out because Eugenia, well, she's like ridiculously nice, and I don't know if she would be planning on dealing with this or what, but considering the amount of traction that Jaclyn's videos are gaining, I'm sure it's being brought up in Eugenia's comments now a lot. Once again, despite my difference of opinion with Jaclyn, I do want to thank her for speaking with me because it's important to discuss issues that we disagree on in a civil manner. I'm sure people will still agree with her, and that's completely fine. If anything, I just want to encourage a healthy conversation and present another perspective from another friend, because I want to remind you that the perspective is from me, not Eugenia. I don't speak for her. I'm just a friend that, you know, heard her out and wanted to throw it on the internet because there wasn't much else. So last minute edit, because just as I was ready to post my video, I noticed that Jaclyn posted another video in which she states it will be her final and she wants to move on. In her video, she talked about a lot of the things that I talked to her about in our conversation, and also elaborated why she felt the need to do the intervention as well as speak up about it. But I still believe that she should have sat down with Eugenia first, personally, one-on-one first. She doubles down on the accusations against Eugenia's mother, and while she could be onto something with this, I still believe that having a one-on-one conversation or private conversation, or at least trying to have a conversation with her mother to see where her head's at beforehand, could have been more productive than just assuming she's the worst, and then once she ambushes the whole intervention and then gets called a bitch by her mom, she's like, see, she's angry at me and she doesn't want any help. Well, maybe she just doesn't want it your way, you know, kind of thing. But that's my opinion. Jaclyn assumed ill intent on Eugenia's mom's behalf, that her mom wants her to stay sick. In her video, Jaclyn represents Eugenia's mom saying to Eugenia,
you know what, you don't have a problem. You're fine. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to work on anything. You're fine. And not only are you fine, if anybody tries to step in and help you, I'm gonna fight them. I'm gonna tell them to back off. I'm gonna tell them they're bad friends. I'm gonna try to tell you to leave that situation where they're trying to get you help. That's not just enabling, that's intent. That's ensuring that they stay sick.
You see, Jaclyn once again reiterates this idea that anyone that dares to tell Eugenia that she needs help, her mom will say, oh, don't hang out with them ever again. But the only example she ever listed was her own self. You know, I would love to hear if there's any other examples, because I'm not trying to dismiss what happened to Jaclyn and her opinions whatsoever. I do want to investigate this. I do want to look into it, but I just feel like the fact that she uses her own example herself, where, you know, she basically ambushed her daughter, you know, I don't know if that's like the best example to say, like, oh, how dare she doesn't want help from me, right? It's like, well, okay, maybe in a different way it could have been presented much more fluidly. It wouldn't have had to become as chaotic as it did. And I want to be clear that in no way am I trying to protect Eugenia's mom, nor do I have any sort of agenda, you know. That would be completely against my morals. Like, if I were to find out that some funny business actually was going on, I will 100% report on it right away, you know. I will be happy to, like, delete this video if I need to and make a new one, but like right now I'm not convinced, and I'm gonna try asking around, of course. You know, I want to kind of investigate into this because this is serious stuff that Jaclyn has said, so I definitely want to look into it. Because when you really look at Jaclyn's videos objectively, there's a lot of appeal to emotion, and it's understandable, especially when she said her example about her friend passing away. I completely understand where she's coming from, you know. I don't blame her for what she did. I just disagree with how she went about it. Alright, I think I talked for way too much now. I'm super nervous about this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And yeah, I'm gonna get back to work, and you guys will see a new video from this channel later this week. Cheers.
Gosh, did you fucking hear that? Did you fucking hear that? Boy, I'ma dox you. Dox you.